Have you ever come across some online comments that sounded something like, "I always get sunburned whenever I use one of those Asian sunscreens. Those sunscreens are a scam." In this video I'll tell you why this happens and give you an updated selection of my favorite Korean sunscreens for all occasions and uses. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If it's the first time you visit this channel, my name is Odile and I work in marketing and advertising in the Korean beauty industry. On this channel, I use my professional experience to bring you informative content on Korean beauty trends and history. So if you'd like to take your K-beauty knowledge to the next level, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you an updated selection of my favorite Korean sunscreens of all time. I don't make these types of videos very often, partly because product reviews are not the primary focus of this channel, and partly because, let's be honest, the list of my favorite products tends to remain fairly consistent over time. I do try new products from time to time, and some of them end up becoming new all-time favorites. However, if you've been following me for a while, I'm sure you've noticed that I tend to recommend the same products over and over again. Well, understand that you may watch beauty content creators to discover new products. I'd also like to send the message that you don't need to be constantly on the lookout for the next new thing. And it's perfectly fine to find a product that you truly love and then stick with it. For this reason, do not expect me to make a new video every single year on my favorite Korean sunscreens of all time. Because frankly, that is not going to happen. The last time I shared with you my top Korean sunscreens was 2021. In the meantime, some of those sunscreens have been reformulated, and I've also discovered some new favorites. So I thought now would be a good time to give you an updated selection of my absolute favorite Korean sunscreens. But first, let's start from the basics, the difference between daily and outdoor sunscreens. When discussing Asian sunscreens, it's very important to understand the difference between daily and outdoor sunscreens. Unfortunately, it's still very common to come across online comments from people who claim they got sunburned while wearing an Asian sunscreen made for daily use on a tropical vacation. So this conversation is still very much necessary. When Korean beauty products started gaining popularity worldwide, many people were captivated by the lightweight and comfortable formulas of Korean sunscreens. However, not everyone is aware of the difference between daily and outdoor sunscreens in Korean beauty. Daily sunscreens are designed for incidental, everyday sun exposure. They are typically formulated to be lightweight, non-greasy and easy to apply, making them suitable for daily wear. In some countries, these sunscreens are sometimes referred to as city or urban sunscreens. On the other hand, outdoor sunscreens are formulated to provide robust, long-lasting protection for extended sun exposure. These sunscreens are typically designed to be resistant to water and sweat, ensuring they remain effective even during swimming, sweating, or other physical activities. In certain countries, these sunscreens are sometimes referred to as beach or sport sunscreens. The distinction between comfortable sunscreens designed for everyday use and heavy-duty sunscreens formulated for outdoor activities is not exclusive to Korean beauty. This classification system is widely used in Japan as well, and perhaps surprisingly, it also applies to Western sunscreens, but is not discussed as frequently because of the characteristics of the average Western beauty consumer Despite what you might perceive from looking at the online beauty community, statistics show that the average Western consumer typically only uses sunscreen when going to the beach. As a result, the majority of sunscreens available in the West are already designed for outdoor use, even if they're not clearly advertised as such. In contrast, wearing sunscreen every day is a common practice in many Asian countries. For instance, a recent report found that nearly 76% of Koreans apply sunscreen every single day. This widespread habit led to a high consumer demand for lightweight and cosmetically elegant sunscreens that are comfortable to wear on a daily basis. As I mentioned a couple of times, I work for a French beauty group in Korea, and I can tell you that this difference in consumer habits is the reason why my company produces completely different sunscreens for the Asian market and the Western market. For instance, about 95% of the sunscreens that we sell in Europe can be described as beach sunscreens, whereas in Korea it's the complete opposite. All sunscreens that we sell in Korea and East Asia in general are formulated by our local research team to meet the taste of our customers in the region, and nearly all of them are lightweight city sunscreens. Contrary to popular opinion, cosmetically elegant city sunscreens do exist in the West, but they are targeted at more informed consumers who are aware of the risks of UV radiation and understand the importance of wearing sunscreen daily. The reason why Western beauty companies don't push these products more is that the average Western consumer, who makes up the majority of their profits, only wears sunscreen during summer when they're on vacation. And even then, studies show they're not very diligent about it. It's a similar situation to why you don't see many Korean beauty companies selling self-tanning products in Korea. It has nothing to do with the lack of adequate technology. The consumer demand is simply not there, at least not at this point in time. The key feature of daily sunscreens, or city sunscreens if you'd like, is that they don't have a strong grip on the skin. This has two main benefits. First, they feel more comfortable and invisible when you apply them. Second, they're easier to remove in the evening, which can be especially helpful for people with sensitive skin. That being said, a sunscreen is still a sunscreen, regardless of its intended use. If you wear a daily sunscreen at the beach, it will still provide the advertised protection, obviously. But since these sunscreens are not designed to have a strong grip on the skin, or to be resistant to water and sweat, they tend to wear off more quickly when used in extreme conditions, like jogging in hot weather, for example. Those of you with very sensitive eyes probably already noticed this. On warm days, these comfortable daily sunscreens tend to slide off the face very easily. So even if a sunscreen didn't sting your eyes when you first put it on in the morning, you might end up with sore eyes a few hours later. I personally struggle with this a lot, so I can already tell you that the daily sunscreens I discuss later in the video are designed to have a stronger grip on the skin compared to the average daily sunscreen. Obviously, they are not made to withstand water, sweat and intense heat, but I find them more resistant than most daily sunscreens on the market. Having said that, wearing sunscreen is certainly better than not wearing any protection at all. So if you're heading to the beach or going hiking and only have access to a regular daily sunscreen, there are a couple of tips to keep in mind. First of all, you'll want to reapply the sunscreen more often than the standard guideline of every 2 hours. This can make up for the fact that the product doesn't hold up well against things like water and sweat. On top of that, combining the sunscreen with physical protection like hats or UV protective clothing can give you an extra layer of protection. However, if you plan to spend a long time outdoors, especially engaging in activities involving water, sweat, strong sunlight, or physical exercise, it's best to opt for a sunscreen that was specifically designed for those conditions. In Korean and Japanese beauty, those heavy-duty sunscreens are commonly called outdoor sunscreens. You can easily recognize them because they use words like outdoor or waterproof in the name or product description, or they reference sport activities. In Korea, a common term used in this context is lesports, which is a contraction of the English words leisure and sports. In this video I put together a selection of my favorite Korean sunscreens for all occasions and uses, and I've divided them into 3 categories: outdoor, daily, and tinted. For context, I have thin, dry, and aging skin, so I prefer sunscreens that provide extra skin barrier support by forming a strong protective film on the surface of the skin. At the same time, I find that many Korean sunscreens marketed for dry skin tend to be a little bit too dewy for my liking, so I tend to go for sunscreens formulated with strong film formers that provide skin barrier support without coming across as overly emollient. All sunscreens in this video match this description. Moreover, all these sunscreens were formulated in-house by companies with their own research teams. As I discussed in my video on the Korean sunscreen controversy, formulating a sunscreen is very complex, and not all companies possess the adequate technology and resources to formulate their own sunscreens. Even an established company like Donginbi, which has its own team of researchers and formulates the vast majority of their products in-house, relies on third-party manufacturers when it comes to sunscreens. Formulating a sunscreen is not something that any brand can easily pull off, and that's why most of the Korean sunscreens that you normally come across on social media use private label formulas produced by third-party manufacturers. The downside of relying on third-party manufacturers is that the formulas tend to be a bit generic, since most of the time they are ready-made formulas sold to many different brands. For this reason, I find sunscreens with proprietary formulas a little more interesting. In the Korean beauty industry, the companies that have the resources and technology to formulate their own sunscreens in-house are essentially 2, Amore Pacific and LG. All sunscreens in this video are made by these 2 companies. Lastly, all sunscreens in this video were purchased with my own money. I don't accept PR, I rarely accept sponsorships, and when I do, it's always for products that I already own and use, and I don't have any professional ties to either LG or Amore Pacific. Part 2. Outdoor sunscreens. In this part, I'll introduce you to my favorite Korean sunscreens, designed to provide strong and long-lasting protection even in the most extreme conditions. Starting off with Isanox UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid. I've recommended this sunscreen countless times on this channel. This sunscreen has been a staple in my routine since it was first launched in 2019, and I can say with confidence that it's my absolute favorite Korean sunscreen of all time. Obviously, I try new sunscreens from time to time, and some of them I really like. However, I haven't found anything that lives up to the UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid. If I had to pick only one Korean sunscreen to use for the rest of my life, this would be my first choice without hesitation. Isanox UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid is a high-performance sunscreen designed to provide strong and long-lasting protection during intense outdoor activities, thanks to a formula that is resistant to water, sweat, and sauna-like weather. And in case you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. The brand had this sunscreen tested in an actual sauna. Yes, a sauna. This sunscreen can withstand not just a hot summer day, but a full-on sauna session. Despite this exceptional resilience, Isanox UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid boasts a lightweight milk texture designed to feel weightless and comfortable for everyday wear. In fact, I find myself reaching for this sunscreen year-round, even on days when I'm not engaging in intense outdoor activities. The sunscreen has a silky, non-sticky texture that sets quickly on the skin and provides exceptional skin barrier support without feeling heavy or greasy. This particular texture makes this sunscreen truly versatile because it allows me to easily apply it on top of other products or simply wear it on its own when I don't have time to do my normal skincare routine. The sunscreen dries down to a natural satin finish that helps visibly smooth out rough and uneven skin texture, resulting in a smooth and uniform complexion that feels incredibly soft to the touch. Isanox UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid is a hybrid sunscreen that combines organic and inorganic UV filters for enhanced protection even in the most extreme conditions. Despite the inclusion of mineral UV filters, the sunscreen doesn't leave any white cast whatsoever. Since I first introduced this sunscreen on my channel, it's been reviewed by many beauty content creators of color. So in this case, I can say with confidence that it's suitable even for darker skin tones. Like most of my favorite sunscreens, the UV Sun Pro 365 Extreme Sun Fluid contains fragrance. It's a sophisticated amber fragrance that blends together soft notes of creamy vanilla with the earthy richness of wood and a subtle hint of sea salt. It reminds me of two fragrances I really love: Vanille Insensé by Atelier Cologne and Aqua Allegoria Vanilla by Guerlain. It's a scent that is refreshing but cozy at the same time. The next sunscreen is Hera's UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards. Hera's UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is the latest reformulation of a sunscreen I've recommended many times in the past, the Hera Sun-Made Leopards. Hera is a more Pacific flagship sunscreen brand. According to independent market studies, Hera has been the #1 best-selling suncare brand in Korea for the past 18 years. This impressive achievement has earned their sunscreens the nickname Gunmin Suncream, an expression that roughly translates to Korea's national sunscreens. The UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards in particular was originally launched in 2004 and has remained the top-selling outdoor sunscreen in Korea for the past 20 consecutive years. The UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is a high-performance sunscreen designed to provide strong and long-lasting protection even in the most extreme conditions. The sunscreen was in fact formulated to be resistant to water, seawater, sweat, and sand, and is the only sunscreen in this video that was certified to be very water resistant, which means it was tested to guarantee at least 50% of its SPF value for 80 minutes. As you might recall from my video on how water-resistant claims are regulated in South Korea. This year, ERA relaunched their iconic outdoor sunscreen with a new, improved formula. As I'm sure you've noticed, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, beauty companies will take an existing product, tweak the formula ever so slightly, and relaunch it as a product renewal. In reality, this is just a strategy to keep consumers interested in the brand by capitalizing on the recognition and market presence of a popular product. However, in this particular case, I truly think that Amore Pacific has made some significant improvements to the original formula. Compared to its predecessor, the formula of the new UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is a lot thinner, feels more weightless, sets much more quickly, and adheres better to the skin. This enhanced adherence allows the formula to apply with greater precision, seamlessly following the natural contours of the face, almost making it feel like second skin. The difference with the previous formula is particularly noticeable when I move my face to speak, laugh, or make any expressions. The new UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is so weightless and adheres so much better to the skin that I can hardly feel it. Even if you are not a big fan of the previous version, I highly recommend giving this new reformulation a try, because it's almost a completely different product. The one feature they kept from the previous version, and personally I'm really glad they did, is the sunscreen's signature water-lux texture. Like the original formula, the UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards features a unique texture called Water Lux, which makes it perfect for warmer seasons. The sunscreen initially has a cream texture when dispensed from the tube, but as you begin to spread it, it breaks down into tiny water droplets that feel instantly fresh and hydrating. This texture delivers an instant boost of hydration without stickiness, even after multiple reapplications, which is a great feature for a sunscreen that was designed with outdoor activities in mind. This unique formula not only delivers a cooling sensation on the skin, but also dries quickly to a natural, semi-glowy finish that is not full-on dewy but not matte either. ERA's UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is a hybrid sunscreen that combines both organic and inorganic UV filters. In this case, the sunscreen leaves a very sheer, intentional white cast. I know this may seem shocking to an international audience, but there's a huge consumer demand for sunscreens that leave an intentional white cast in Korea and East Asia in general. This is partly due to a preference for fair skin in East Asia, but for those with fair to light medium skin tones, this sheer white cast can also help even out complexion, like a CC cream or a color-correcting makeup base. In this case, for instance, the white cast left by the UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards is nearly invisible on fair skin, and is meant to even out complexion rather than visually lighten your natural skin tone, and it's suitable for light to light medium skin tones. ERA's UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards contains fragrance. It's a classic white floral fragrance that blends top notes of jasmine flower with base notes of white musk. If you're familiar with Gucci Bloom, this sunscreen has a very similar fragrance profile. It's a little nostalgic and not the most original, but overall it's a very safe and inoffensive fragrance. The last sunscreen in this category is Always Day Shield Perfect Sun Black. This is the first time I featured this product on my channel. Always Day Shield Perfect Sun is LG's best-selling sunscreen in Korea. The product was first introduced in 2007 and has remained LG's #1 best-selling sunscreen for the past 17 years. And yet, despite being familiar with its reputation, I only decided to give this sunscreen a try 2 years ago, after being really impressed by another OE sunscreen, the First Geniture Vitamin UV Defense, which was a strong contender for this video, but eventually I decided to narrow the selection as much as possible. OE's Day Shield Perfect Sun is an outdoor sunscreen that was formulated to be resistant to water and sweat. Unlike the other outdoor sunscreens in my selection, the formula of this sunscreen is slightly tinted to naturally conceal imperfections. The sunscreen is available in 2 variants. The Day Shield Perfect Sun Black features a natural beige formula, while the Day Shield Perfect Sun Red boasts a green-tinted formula designed to counteract redness. Besides the obvious difference in tints, each version has its own unique formula, properties and finish. The black version is recommended for skin that is prone to pigmentation, while the red version is recommended for fair skin prone to redness and irritation. Personally, I prefer the Day Shield Perfect Sun Black, but do let me know if you'd be interested in a comparison video on all their sunscreens, similar to the one I made for the History of Who. The Day Shield Perfect Sun Black is a hybrid sunscreen that combines organic and inorganic UV filters. Its beige formula provides a very sheer coverage, which helps even out complexion and conceal minor imperfections. This makes it a great sunscreen to wear in hot and humid weather when you don't feel to layer on a full face of makeup. Even if you do wish to wear the sunscreen with makeup, OE's Day Shield Perfect Sun Black offers a silky finish that helps smooth out skin texture and enhance makeup adhesion, making it an excellent makeup primer as well. For many years, I hesitated to try this sunscreen because tinted sunscreens sometimes tend to provide way too much coverage, which makes it tricky to apply the right amount without looking unnatural. OE's Day Shield Perfect Sun Black, on the other hand, provides just the right amount of coverage. And it also has a natural silky finish that blends seamlessly into the skin, creating a second skin effect. For this reason, I think it's also a great choice for men who want to enhance their complexion without looking like they're wearing makeup. OE's Day Shield Perfect Sun Black contains fragrance. If you're familiar with high-end Korean beauty brands, you may have noticed that the fragrances of these products are often inspired by designer perfumes. In the case of this sunscreen, I can say with confidence that it's modeled after Eclat d'Arpège by Lanvin, which is one of the most popular designer fragrances in Korea. In fact, when you take a look at the Korean Beauty Awards featured on my website, you'll see that Eclat d'Arpège has been a consistent bestseller for years, dating back as far as 2020. The appeal of this fragrance lies in its harmonious fusion of floral and green elements that blends together lilac and wisteria with fresh notes of green tea and lemon leaves. It's a very delicate and clean fragrance that will instantly remind you of spring. Since OE's Day Shield Perfect Sun is LG's most popular sunscreen in Korea, the company offers this sunscreen in various formats, ranging from 30 to 80 ml. If you compare the retail price for each size, you'll see that the 80 ml jumbo size is better value than the standard size. However, LG only makes this larger version available for a limited time each year. typically between the months of June and September. You might be able to find the jumbo size through some international retailers at other times, but if you happen to be visiting Korea and want to stock up on the Dayshield Perfect Sun jumbo size, keep in mind that it's only available in summer. One last thing before moving on to the next part. OE's Dayshield Perfect Sun has been around for 17 years, and as you can probably guess, it's been reformulated quite a few times. Unfortunately, the ingredient list on their Korean website is not updated at the time I'm making this video, so if you have any serious allergy or sensitivity, I recommend referring to the ingredient list on my website, which I personally transcribed from the official product packaging. You will find all links in the description box below. Part 3. Daily Sunscreens. In this part, I'll introduce you to comfortable Korean sunscreens that are perfect for daily wear. The first sunscreen in this category is the History of Who's Gonjinyang Essential UV Protective Cream. I've recommended this sunscreen many times before. It's a sunscreen that has been around for 20 years, and as much as I liked the original version, it was only when it was relaunched with a new formula in 2022 that I truly fell in love with it. It quickly went on to become my favorite daily Korean sunscreen and my second favorite overall after Isanox Extreme Sun Fluid. The best way I can describe this sunscreen is my skin barrier but better. The History of Who's Gonjinyang Essential UV Protective Cream is in fact the only Korean sunscreen I've come across that, despite feeling truly invisible on the skin, provides outstanding skin barrier support and doesn't leave my skin feeling tight or like something's missing by the end of the day, even when I wear it on its own on busy days when I don't have time to do my normal skincare routine. Every time I use this sunscreen, I'm reminded of how my skin would feel had my skin barrier not been so thin and fragile. It's hard to describe, but it's a formula that feels like it was tailor-made just for my skin. The History of Who's Gonjinyang Essential UV Protective Cream has a weightless cream texture that seamlessly blends into the skin, leaving behind a soft, silky finish that helps smooth out rough patches and uneven skin texture, resulting in a smooth, even and healthy-looking complexion. The formula sets within seconds, making the sunscreen highly versatile. I can easily layer it over other products or wear it on its own without having to wait a long time for it to dry. The Gonjinyang Essential UV Protective Cream is a hybrid sunscreen that combines both organic and inorganic UV filters. Despite the inclusion of mineral UV filters, the formula remains completely invisible on my skin. Like all products from the History of Who, the Gonjinyang Essential UV Protective Cream contains fragrance. I've said this before, but I'm not the biggest fan of the fragrance used in this sunscreen. It smells exactly like Nivea cream, which is not a bad fragrance per se, but it's not the type of fragrance I expect from a luxury beauty brand. The next sunscreen is the History of Who's Gonjinyang Sunquid UV Protective Cream. The History of Who's Gonjinyang Sunquid UV Protective Cream is part of a new line of next generation sunscreens called Sunquids, which were launched by the LG Group at the beginning of the year. The name Sunquid is a combination of the words sunscreen and liquid, and it's meant to highlight the ultra lightweight and fluid formulas of these products. LG has launched a total of 9 Sunquid sunscreens across various brands within their portfolio. While each version has its own unique properties and features, all these sunscreens share the same base formula. The key feature of the Sunquid sunscreens is their ultra-lightweight, watery texture that has the consistency of a toner. The core formula of these sunscreens is mainly based on glycerin, alcohol, and silicones, which keeps them from feeling oily or greasy on the skin. Coupled with a weightless texture that the company describes as thin as water, no white cast, and a natural satin finish, the result is a sunscreen that truly feels like second skin. Despite their natural satin finish, none of these sunscreens is actively mattifying. So while they won't make your skin more oily, they also won't help control excess oil and shine. This means that if your skin has a tendency to become very oily and shiny during the day, you need to apply a separate mattifying product on top of the sunscreens. These sunscreens also promise to offer a refreshing skin cooling effect. As someone who has personally tried all 9 Sunquid sunscreens, I can confirm they do feel instantly cooling upon application. However, this cooling sensation is only temporary and fades within 10 to 15 seconds. It's also worth pointing out that any sunscreen with a high alcohol content will produce a similar effect. This happens because alcohol is a liquid that easily turns into gas at room temperature. When this happens, the alcohol takes energy from the heat in your skin, which lowers the temperature of the skin. Technically, it's true that these sunscreens provide a cooling effect. However, I don't find it to be the incredible selling point that LG is making it out to be. That being said, what I find more impressive about the Sunquid sunscreens, and I was surprised to see LG was not highlighting this more in their marketing, is their ability to adhere firmly to the skin while still being easy to remove with a simple face wash. Usually, easy wash sunscreens are easy to remove because they don't have a strong grip on the skin. But in this case, I find that the Sunquid sunscreens maintain a firm grip on the skin even in hot temperatures, while still being very easy to wash off. And I can't think of any other Korean sunscreen that achieves this balance. Obviously, these sunscreens are not designed for intense outdoor activities, so please don't bring them along for your next surfing competition in Hawaii. But in comparison to other easy wash sunscreens available in Korea, I find that the Sunquid sunscreens are a lot more resistant. And I personally think this is way more impressive than the skin cooling claim. As I mentioned before, all the Sunquid sunscreens share the same base formula, but each version has its own unique features. The most notable difference is the level of skin barrier support. Some of these sunscreens form a thicker protective film on the skin, which translates into stronger skin barrier support. On the other hand, versions that form a thinner film feel more invisible on the skin, making them ideal for those who prefer an ultra-lightweight, barely there finish. The Sunquid sunscreens that provide the strongest skin barrier support are the Gonjinyang Sunquid UV Protective Cream by the History of Who, shortly followed by the Angel Aqua Moisture Barrier Sunquid by Beyond. The Sunquid from the History of Who in particular has a beautiful silky finish that smooths skin texture and leaves your skin incredibly soft, which is exactly the type of finish I prefer in a sunscreen, as I tend to struggle with rough and flaky skin. Like the previous sunscreen, the Gonjinyang Sunquid UV Protective Cream smells exactly like Nivea cream. It's not a bad fragrance per se, but it's not the type of fragrance I expect from a luxury beauty brand. The next sunscreen is Carezone Waterfit Soothing Sun Fluid. This is the first time I'm featuring this product on my channel. I mentioned it on Instagram shortly after it was launched last year, but this is its official debut on YouTube. Carezone Waterfit Soothing Sun Fluid is a milk sunscreen with a lightweight and hypoallergenic formula designed with sensitive skin in mind. The sunscreen offers an incredibly lightweight and silky formula that blends seamlessly into the skin and dries down to a natural satin finish that's not dewy but not completely matte either. Overall, I find that the sunscreen leaves my skin hydrated and comfortable without being sticky or greasy. The Waterfit Soothing Sun Fluid is a hybrid sunscreen that combines both organic and inorganic UV filters. However, the formula doesn't leave any visible white cast on my skin tone. Despite its truly minimal, no-frill formula, Carezone Waterfit Soothing Sun Fluid provides exceptional skin barrier support because it was designed with the needs of delicate and sensitive skin in mind. One of the key selling points of this sunscreen, in fact, is that it's suitable for the whole family, including very young children. You might come across people online arguing that cosmetics for children are just a marketing scam and they are no different from regular cosmetics. And while this may be true in countries where marketing claims related to children's cosmetics are not regulated, the situation is very different in South Korea. Following a recent spike in sales of cosmetics for kids in South Korea, growing concerns emerged over the potential health and safety risks for young children using these products. In response to these concerns, the Korean government decided to implement strict regulations on children's cosmetics in January 2020. One of the main reasons for these concerns is that babies and young children have thinner skin compared to adults. In addition, their skin barrier is not yet fully developed, making them more prone to developing adverse reactions from skincare products. To address these risks, the Korean government introduced regulations to ensure that cosmetics marketed towards children meet strict safety standards. These measures include additional safety tests, the prohibition of certain ingredients such as salicylic acid, and accurate labeling of potential allergens. In particular, Korean cosmetic laws recognize two different categories of children's cosmetics. Cosmetics for infants, which are designed for babies under 3 years old, and cosmetics for children, which are designed for children aged 4 to 13 years. Each of these categories is subject to different safety standards and requirements, with infant cosmetics being subject to the strictest regulations. Carezone Waterfit Soothing Sun Fluid in this case was certified to be suitable for babies under 3 years old. That being said, it's important to remember that young children should be kept out of direct sunlight as much as possible. So if you're planning to stay outside with your child for a long time, it's always better to use physical protection like sun hats and UV protective clothing along with sunscreen. So while the sunscreen is suitable for young children, common sense still applies. Besides being suitable for children, the sunscreen doesn't contain fragrance, essential oils, alcohol, or any other ingredient that could potentially irritate sensitive skin. The last sunscreen in this category is Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense. I've recommended this sunscreen many times in the past, and it's still one of my go-to Korean sunscreens. Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense is the oldest Korean sunscreen still on the market today. Originally launched in 1996, the sunscreen quickly gained a cult following in Korea thanks to its very sophisticated and cosmetically elegant formula, a quality that used to be associated only with foreign sunscreens at the time. For this reason, this sunscreen is widely credited for changing the public perception of domestic sunscreens in Korea. And I know that it's hard to believe when you think of the reputation of Korean beauty nowadays, but you need to keep in mind that Korean beauty is a fairly recent industry, and until 20 years ago, the Korean market was mostly dominated by foreign beauty brands. You can get a sense of this when you look at the statistics from the time. As you can see, Korean cosmetics only caught up with foreign beauty brands around 2010, and it took them a few more years to gain a significant margin over foreign imports. The Zera sunscreen in particular became known to the general public as an affordable alternative to the Lancome UV Expert, which has been a huge bestseller in Korea and across East Asia for almost 30 years. Thanks to this reputation, Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense continues to be Amore Pacific's #1 best-selling sunscreen in Korea to this day, even after multiple reformulations. What sets this sunscreen apart is its ability to cater to the unique needs of dry and aging skin without sacrificing performance or cosmetic elegance. With its deeply moisturizing formula, the UV Protector Multi Defense acts as a skin barrier cream, providing comfortable protection against environmental aggressors like sudden temperature changes, but without the stickiness or heaviness that often come with sunscreens designed for dry skin. Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense has an elegant creamy texture that blends easily into the skin and helps smooth out rough, uneven skin texture, leaving my complexion looking more compact, luminous and hydrated. The sunscreen dries down to a natural, radiant finish that feels silky smooth to the touch and doesn't look greasy or shiny, but rather gives the skin a healthy, radiant glow. The UV Protector Multi Defense is also infused with antioxidants to combat oxidative stress and provides protection against visible light, which is known to be a trigger for pigmentation disorders like melasma. All these features make this sunscreen particularly suitable for dry and aging skin, which tends to become more thin, flaky and sensitive to environmental aggressors over time. Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense is a hybrid sunscreen that combines both organic and inorganic UV filters. Like the UV Protector Extreme Force Leopards I showed you before, this sunscreen also leaves a very sheer, intentional white cast that is designed to even out complexion rather than visually lighten your natural skin tone. Like all sunscreens from the brand, Hera's UV Protector Multi Defense has a classic white floral fragrance. Part 4. Tinted Sunscreens. In this part, I'll introduce you to my favorite Korean sunscreens designed to protect skin and perfect complexion at the same time. Since I've already covered Owi's Day Shield Perfect Sun Black in this segment on outdoor sunscreens, in this part, I'll focus on the other two sunscreens in my selection. Starting from the history of who's Cheonggidan Radiant Regenerating UV Protection Cream. I first recommended this sunscreen as part of my guide on the history of who sunscreens, and it's been a staple in my routine ever since. Out of all these sunscreens shown in this video, This is my favorite to wear under makeup. The finish is very similar to two makeup products I really love. Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer Light Revealer and Tom Ford's Shade and Illuminate Soft Radiance Primer. So if you too are a fan of any of those products, I believe you'll absolutely love this sunscreen as well. The Historia Who's Cheonggyedan Radiant Regenerating UV Protection Cream is a multifunctional sunscreen with a sheer tinted formula designed to improve skin elasticity and boost skin radiance. The sunscreen features an extremely elegant cream formula that seamlessly blends into the skin, revealing a supple, luminous complexion. Infused with the key active ingredients of the Historia Who's Cheonggyedan line, the formula helps to visibly tighten loose skin, refine skin texture, and instantly revive dull and tired-looking skin. One of the most striking features of this sunscreen is the incorporation of micro shimmers derived from crushed oyster shells. Unlike the artificial shine of glitter, these tiny shimmer particles capture and reflect the light to deliver a healthy and natural-looking radiance. It's not a full-on dewy finish, but rather a really sophisticated, lit from within luminosity that is beyond stunning. If you like the finish of this sunscreen, you might also want to check out the makeup products from the Cheonggyedan line, because they all have a similar finish. I know I don't talk much about makeup on this channel, but do let me know if you'd be interested in a video on high-end Korean makeup. The Cheonggyedan Radiant Regenerating UV Protection Cream is a hybrid sunscreen that combines organic and inorganic UV filters for enhanced protection. The texture has a subtle rosy tint when it comes out of the tube, but this tint disappears completely upon full application, leaving no visible white cast on fair skin. To no one's surprise, the Historia Who's Cheonggyedan Radiant Regenerating UV Protection Cream contains fragrance. It's definitely a very polarizing fragrance, but as a fan of oud and Middle Eastern inspired fragrances like Penhaligon's Hammam Bouquet, I absolutely adore the fragrance of this sunscreen. It's a rich and opulent fragrance that will instantly remind you of the atmosphere of a Turkish bath. It starts off with aromatic notes of jasmine and saffron and gradually dries down to a warm, sensual base of amber and musk. The last sunscreen is Believe's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus. This is the first time I'm featuring this product on my channel. Believe's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus is a multifunctional daily sunscreen with a natural tinted formula designed to double as a makeup base or a CC cream. The sunscreen originally came out in 2011, and to this day, it remains the brand's #1 best-selling sunscreen in Korea. And yet, despite its reputation, I only discovered this sunscreen 2 years ago when I had the chance to try it at a Believe counter in a Korean department store. And if you're wondering why I was so hesitant to try this sunscreen in the past, allow me to show you the main promotional picture for this product. For the longest time, I thought this sunscreen was designed with Oompa Loompas in mind. So imagine my surprise when I tried it in store and saw that it was actually a very natural, non-orange beige color. If any of the people working at LG happen to come across this video, I'd like to suggest to maybe rethink the promotional pictures for this sunscreen. Just my 2 cents. The first time I've tried Believe's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus in store, I was beyond impressed by its formula. Not only was it a far cry from the orange hue I was expecting, but it was simply stunning. First of all, it provides a very natural coverage. As I mentioned earlier, tinted sunscreens can sometimes provide too much coverage, which makes it tricky to apply them in the right amount without looking unnatural. This is not the case for Belif's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus, which provides a truly sheer skin perfecting coverage that helps conceal imperfections without looking cakey. This allows me to apply the recommended amount of sunscreen without worrying about looking overdone. Compared to the Hui sunscreen I showed you at the beginning of the video, this sunscreen provides a little more coverage, but not to the point of making it obvious that you're wearing makeup, so I believe it should be suitable for men as well. Secondly, Belif's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus is a lightweight lotion formula that feels hydrating upon application, but dries down to an incredibly soft, silky finish that smooths out skin texture and enhances the adherence of makeup. Belif's UV Protector Multi Sunscreen Plus is a plant-based green citrus fragrance that blends together bright notes of bergamot, orange and lime with earthy notes of cedar and cloves. Personally, I think that the fragrance of this sunscreen was heavily inspired by L'Occitane Classic Verbena line, which has been really popular in Korea for a long time. We've come to the end of today's video. If you'd like to learn more about the sunscreens featured in this video, I personally translated all product descriptions and ingredient lists on my website. You will find all links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!